Hello Funkers, Tony Funk here, and welcome to another Tony Tangent. And yes, I have a new VTube model. Hopefully the mouth flaps work. I'm still testing it before I do a little something different with this model. So Dragon Ball Daima episode 18 happened, and boy do I have some thoughts about it. I'm going to start by saying that Dragon Ball has officially stopped trying to ground their continuity. I know that's kind of like a very basic take, and it's a take that people have been making since the Super days, but I just think things have become so egregious, we can just ignore the continuity at this point. Though Dragon Ball Z also expanded the lore to the point that the original Dragon Ball felt like a completely different series, and even though Super made that worse and retconned the end of Z, as well as introduced so many plot holes, the whole canon discussion went away, I do think Daima just flat out told us not to think about the timeline. What this implies is that Toriyama's vision before he passed was to turn Dragon Ball into a series that lived off of hype moments. Now with that obvious precursor out of the way, let's talk about what happened. Now the most obvious one of course was that ostensibly looking Super Saiyan 4 transformation. As crazy and out of left field and as lore destroying as it is, given that Goku never used that against Beerus, or even ever mentioned it, the one saving grace is that Neva had to help Goku achieve it through some sort of magic, I suppose. I think the most problematic aspect about this though is that did Neva know the capabilities of a Saiyan before, or how did he know how to unlock this power for a Saiyan? We know Guru can unlock potentials, so maybe it's the same concept, and the whole growing the tail and growing fur and all that sort of stuff just kind of happened organically. Before I mention how this could possibly fit into the continuity, just for shits and giggles, I have to talk about the major issue I have with this episode though. The whole Super Saiyan thing, as anticlimactic as it was, can be explained away. It really wasn't that big of an issue. But I can't say the same thing for the Tertian Oculus. It gave Kuromi such a power boost that he was able to surpass the power levels of the Tamagamis, Super Saiyan 3, and ostensibly even Majin Buu. I think this is a huge plot hole, and it calls into question just how powerful Goma was originally, or rather, just how weak Abura was originally. Here's why. We know Goma was less powerful than a Tamagami, so we can say that at his most powerful, he was slightly weaker than Dabura, who was roughly around the same power level as Perfect Cell. The reason I say this is because Dabura never had access to the Tertian Oculus. Now if Dabura ever used the Tertian Oculus, based on seeing King Goma's power spike, we can assume that Dabura would have been even more powerful than King Goma is right now. So back to King Abura. If King Abura had the Tertian Oculus and was still not strong enough to beat a Tamagami, let alone rival Majin Buu, the guy must have been extremely weak. This prompts us to ask how he even became king of the demon realm to begin with. I also don't want to do any power scaling right now because it takes forever, but if I'm not mistaken, this artifact, the Tertian Oculus, has to have the most powerful power boost ever seen in all of Dragon Ball. I mean, think about it. It was able to turn a guy who was weaker than Perfect Cell into a monster capable of rivaling Super Saiyan 4, which, as we know, has been confirmed to be more powerful than Super Saiyan 3. And though you can argue that because Goku is a child, he's significantly weaker than he would have been as an adult, we can't ignore the fact that Goku's power level at this point in the story is disgustingly high. So if it was known that the Tertian Oculus was capable of turning Abura from a seemingly weak guy to a guy capable of lording over people such as Dabura, who had the power level of Perfect Cell, why is it that now is the first time we've ever heard of this thing? And yes, I understand that the demon realms exist in a different dimension as the regular world, but given that Namekians, as well as Glins, which is what Shin is, came from the demon realm, they must have been aware of this artifact. And though you can explain it away as like, well, it was lost and found multiple times throughout history, and so the Namekians had no idea about it, or it wasn't relevant to the Namekians. In a series that revolves around power and power scaling and becoming more powerful, it's still frickin' weird that this thing has never been mentioned before. Now on to another supposition. People are saying that Goma somehow has some sort of tie to either the Pride Troopers or Jiren. I really doubt that. Though his look is somewhat similar to Jiren's and the rest of the Pride Troopers, his outfit isn't exactly the same. And though he's gray, just like Jiren is, he's got pointy ears because he's a demon, right? So I think it's far more likely that Toriyama simply reused the design in the same way that he reused Hit's design when he designed 7-3. But those are just my 2 cents. As far as the consequences that all of these lore introductions have with Dragon Ball Super, I'm sure they're going to try to tie it in somehow. But honestly, I think that at some point, there's going to be some sort of event, either through the Dragon Balls or something, that either erases the memories of this adventure in the Demon Realm, or at the very least makes it impossible for Goku to achieve Super Saiyan 4. And don't get me started about Vegeta using Super Saiyan 3. That one's really tough to explain. I mean, I know it drains a lot of energy, but come on. When Bulma was in danger, you're telling me he didn't use it? That's just straight up baloney. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts about episode 18. What do you guys think? Do you think the continuity is somehow going to be fixed? Or that I hit the nail on the head, that Toriyama simply stopped caring about making the continuities make sense? I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments below. So take it easy, and as always, I shall see yas down the road.